Hi everybody, salam. Welcome back to my channel. So we have a new lesson. We are going to learn about prepositions of time. In the previous lesson, we went over some common time expressions and time vocab that are used in Farsi. I hope you guys had a chance to go over that lesson. If not, then I hope you guys at least you're familiar with some of the time expressions used in Farsi, because then it would make this lesson a lot easier. So in this lesson, we are going to go over prepositions of time, and then we are going to go over these examples. So the reason this lesson is long is because of the examples. In the next following slides, I think in the next few slides, I have explained to you the whole lesson in just a few minutes. So if you want to just get the key points, you can just watch the slide in just a few minutes. But if you want to get more practices and you want to know the nuances and stuff, then it's very helpful for you guys to go over the examples too, because that's how you're going to learn, and that's how you're going to see how to actually use them in like different sentences. Before we start this lesson, please note that there's two parts to this topic. In this lesson, we are going to learn part 1, but for part 2, we first need to know a few more tenses. For example, we need to know present perfect and we need to know imperfect for that. So once we go over those tenses, then I will go ahead and also publish part 2. So for now, at the time this video is published, part 2 is not out yet, but once we go over the tenses, then you will see part 2 as well. Let's start with the title here. حروف اضافه زمان در فارسی. حروف اضافه, it means prepositions, and then zaman, time, and در فارسی in Persian. So here on the left side, as you can see here in English, 3 different prepositions is used when referring to time. For example, at is used for specific time, or in is used for like months or years. But in Farsi, it's actually, I think it's easier, only dar is used. And also dar is not used in all contexts. For example, in the informal language, we don't even use it. It might be used from time to time in the formal language, meaning like in the formal written language, or like, you know, in the news and stuff. So in the next following slides, we will see when we use dar and when we don't use dar. Okay, now for those of you who don't want to go through the whole lesson and don't want to do the practices, then you can just listen to this one. I can explain to you the whole lesson in just a few minutes. But for those of you who want to go through the whole lesson and do each one of the practices, then you can skip this part, because I am going to explain each category again as I go through the lesson. So here, prepositions of time. In the previous slide, we said that sometimes the preposition dar is used for at, in, on. So let's see what we mean here, and there's also some nuances that you need to know. For example, for time in English, you say at 4 p.m. or at 9 a.m. In Farsi, in the formal language, dar is used, not in the informal spoken language. In the formal language, written language, or in the news and stuff, maybe they use dar, and it's also optional. They sometimes use dar, not all the time. But what's common to use is sa'at, and sa'at means hour or watch or clock. In this case, it means hour. And then we need ezafe to connect it. So formally would be dar sa'at 4 asr. The number also gets the ezafe. Or informally, just sa'at 4 asr. And for example, next one, when you want to say at night or in the mornings for like repetitive habits, then we don't use a preposition, and we just add a ha to the time vocab. For example, shab ha, sobh ha. Or for parts of the day, for example, you want to say this morning or this afternoon, then you cannot literally say like in sobh. In Farsi, it's common to say emruz sobh or emruz or like today morning or today afternoon. For years and month, in English you say in, the preposition in is used for like in 2000 or September. In Farsi, the preposition dar again is optional, and it is used mostly in the informal language. But in the spoken language, it's also common to use like the word sal here. For example, sale 2000. So either dar sale 2000 or sale 2000. Or in September, like dar ماه سپتامبر, or just ماه سپتامبر. You know, like here, I said that it's common to use the word ساعت, so it's the same here too. So it's also common to use ساله or ماه. And for holidays, also like on Christmas Day or on my birthday, it's also common to use روز too. And that again is optional. So either در روز Christmas, or we don't say that and we just say روز Christmas, or روز تولدم. And then for meal times and other times, in English the preposition at is used. For example, at lunch or at dinner time. In Farsi we use موقع, like موقع نهار or موقع شام. There's another one also we use is هنگامه, but هنگام is like used in the in the formal language. All right, so that was this for this lesson. This is what we are going to learn in this lesson. Again, if you want to get more practices, feel free to go over the examples, because that's going to help you to learn them better and remember them better. So here are the examples that I used in this lesson. We are going to translate these examples into Persian, and it will be a great practice for you guys. So I categorized them into different groups, and we are going to first start with this one. Let's start with time. So in English, the preposition at is used for time. For example, at 5 p.m., at 9 a.m. In Farsi, the preposition dar could be used. It's not, it's optional. We don't have to use a preposition, but sometimes in the formal language, you might see the preposition dar. Sometimes they use it, sometimes they don't use it. But if it's used, it would only be in the formal language. In the spoken language, we don't use it. But what's common to use is the word sa'at. Sa'at, it means hour, watch, or clock. But in this context, it means hour. And then we need to connect the word sa'at to the number with ezafe. And also the number gets an ezafe too. So it would be ساعت 5 عصر. 5 is 5. Or for example, you want to say at 9 a.m. Dar, which is optional, ساعت 9 صبح. Or in the spoken language, I would just say ساعت 9 صبح. And also, as you remember in the previous lesson, I said that in Persian, we don't have PM or AM, so you have to be specific. You have to specify it. For example, PM, 5 PM falls under evening time, right? So it would be Asr. Or 9 AM falls on the morning time, so it would be Subh. Next one, for example, at midnight. Again, that is optional and it's used in the formal language. So در ساعت 12 شب, or without در ساعت 12 شب. And again, in Persian, we also don't have a word for midnight. You have to specify it. You have to say 12 night. So let's take a look at a few examples. Once you see a few examples, then we can understand it better. All right, so the example here says, I called my friend at 9 p.m. So the verb is to call. To call, meaning to make phone call, in Farsi is zang zadan. Zang, it means like the ring, bell, and then zadan kind of it means like to hit. So to hit the bell, to hit the ring. If that helps you to memorize it better. Alright, so the verb zang zadan, remember, is a prepositional verb, and the preposition is be. Be kasi zang zadan. So in Farsi, we call to someone. And also here, I called, so this is past tense. And if you don't remember how to form past tense, so we need the past stem of the verb. So here is the verbal element zadan. So the past stem is we just get rid of nun. So zad is the past stem and we attach the verb ending to it. So very easy. And now the rest of the vocab. Friend is dust. And then 9 p.m. 9 is no. And again, we don't say like, we don't have PM in Farsi, so you have to say 9 at night. So no hai shab. So literally, we need to say something like, hour 9 night to my friend called. And also the preposition, sorry, not preposition, the time. Time in Farsi comes a little bit earlier in the sentence because the sentence ends with the verb. So that's why it needs to come early. So how do we say this sentence? من در ساعت 9 شب به دوستم زنگ زدم. One more time. من در ساعت 9 شب به دوستم زنگ زدم. So man here, the subject pronoun is in a bracket. We don't need to have it. Dar also here, it's optional. It's only used maybe in the formal language. At least in the spoken language, we don't say it. But I still put it there in a bracket for those of you who need to have some kind of preposition. Because in English, especially for English speakers, they need to have, they're so used to using a preposition. So if you think that you need to use a preposition, it's okay, you can use that. But basically in the spoken colloquial language, this is what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say ساعت 9 شب به دوستم زنگ زدم. So I don't use the subject pronoun, and I don't use the preposition. So an important point that you need to know is the order of sa'at and the number. For example, if you want to say at 9, so whether AM or PM, and then first we need to say sa'at, then comes number 9 here, which is no. So sa'ate no. That means at 9. Sometimes students first say the number and then they say sa'at. So if you switch that, then the meaning changes from at 9 to 9 hours. So no sa'at, it means 9 hours. For example, something like I slept for 9 hours. Then we use no sa'at. But if I want to say I woke up at 9 a.m., then I would say sa'ate no. Next example, every day I wake up at noon. So what is the verb here? The verb is to wake up, which in Farsi is bidar shodan. What is this thing here in the bracket? That's the present stem. Why? Why do we need the present stem? Because the tense is simple present tense. We're talking about a repetitive habit happening every day. So we need to have simple present tense. And how do we form that? We need the prefix me, which it doesn't mean anything, it's just a prefix. We need the present stem, which you can see in the bracket, and then we need to attach the verb ending to the present stem. And here is the literal translation. All right, so let's go over the vocab. So every day is haruz, and then at noon is davozdae zohr. In the previous lesson, I said that in Farsi, we don't have like noon or midnight. You need to be specific. You have to say like 12 in the afternoon or 12 in the evening. So we are going to start the sentence with a time adverb, haruz. haruz من در ساعت 12 ظهر بیدار می شوم. هر روز من در ساعت 12 ظهر بیدار می شوم. Again, man is in a bracket. We don't need to have it because it's implied in the conjugation. And also dar again is in a bracket too. We don't need to say it. Like in the informal language, I would pronounce the sentence a little bit differently because mishavam in the spoken informal language becomes misham. And also I don't need to say man and I don't need to say dar. So I would say something like هر روز ساعت 12 ظهر بیدار میشم. So we covered time, this category. Now let's go over this one. Now we want to say phrases like this morning or this afternoon or this evening. For example, this afternoon I saw my friend, or this morning I had breakfast, something like this. Then a common mistake by the students is that they literally translate this. They say like this morning, they say in صبح, because in is this and صبح is morning. But that's not common to say in Farsi. What we say is امروز صبح. It's like today morning. Or for example, for this afternoon, we say امروز ظهر, like today afternoon, or this evening, امروز عصر, today evening. So just remember that. And also remember there's no اضافه between امروز and the word after that. For example, we don't say امروزه صبح. So no اضافه, امروز and then صبح. Let's take a look at a couple of examples. The first one, this morning I didn't see my boss in the office. So the verb here is to see, which in Farsi is دیدن. But remember, دیدن is a transitive verb, so meaning it has a direct object. And here, my boss is the direct object, and it has the possessive my, so it will trigger را. So کسی را دیدن. Remember this, and then the verb is in past tense. Again, here is the formula for past tense. So literally we need to say something like today morning, I, my boss in the office, not saw. So this morning is امروز صبح. Remember, we don't say in صبح, we say امروز صبح. We say today morning. And then boss is رئیس and office is اداره. امروز صبح من رئیسم را در اداره ندیدم. One more time. امروز صبح من رئیسم را در اداره ندیدم. So here remember again رئیسم because it has the possessive suffix, so it will trigger را because we are not talking about any boss, we're talking about my boss, so it will be the direct object will be specific, so it will trigger را. We have learned this in the lesson what the direct object make it را. Alright, so now let's see how do we say this sentence in the spoken informal language. So we don't need to say man, and also رئیسم را becomes رئیسم رو. So ra becomes ro, or even more informally becomes the letter u. So رئیسم مو. One more time, رئیسم رو or رئیسم مو. And then the preposition dar in the spoken language is to. All right, so this sentence is pronounced. The sentence is read. امروز صبح رئیسم رو تو اداره ندیدم. Or a little bit more informally. امروز صبح رئیسم رو تو اداره ندیدم. Let's take a look at the next example. This afternoon, this man was very tired. So this example is pretty easy, right? What's the verb? The verb is was, which comes from the infinitive to be, and the infinitive to be in Farsi is بودن. And then was is in past tense. So here's the formula for past tense again. We just get rid of the noon. And remember, for third person singular in the past tense, there's no verbal ending. And literally, we need to say something like, today afternoon, this man very tired was. So this afternoon is امروز ظهر. So today afternoon. And then man is مرد. Very is خیلی. Tired is خسته. So we are going to start the sentence with the time adverb امروز ظهر. امروز ظهر این مرد خیلی خسته بود. One more time. امروز ظهر این مرد خیلی خسته بود. Alright, so we covered this category, we covered this category, and now let's go over this one. Now we want to use these phrases, or we want to say these phrases in Farsi. We want to say, like, for example, on Monday morning or on Friday evening. So this one is pretty easy. We actually don't need to have a preposition. We just say like the time. We just say, for example, Monday morning, دوشنبه صبح, but there's no اضافه. So دوشنبه صبح. Friday evening, جمعه عصر. Saturday night, شنبه شب. Sunday afternoon, یکشنبه ظهر. What if now we are referring to a repetitive habit, like let's say every Monday morning or on Monday mornings, like as a repetitive habit, then we just either add a ha to it, like دوشنبه صبح ha, or for every Monday morning we add a har to it. So har دوشنبه صبح, no more, the suffix ha here does not apply. har دوشنبه صبح or دوشنبه صبح ha. Now there's also another way to say this, is this one here. So we can also say, instead of saying دوشنبه صبح, we can also say صبح دوشنبه. So here the meaning it means the same thing, but it's just literally this one is kind of saying the morning of Monday. And for this column here, we need to have اضافه for each one. For example, عصر جمعه, it means the evening of Friday, and this one means Friday evening. Or for example, this one, the last one, یکشنبه ظهر versus ظهر یکشنبه. So Sunday afternoon versus the afternoon of Sunday. So you can say either one, either column here works, but just make sure if you're using this version, don't use اضافه. If you're using this version, you need to add, you need to use اضافه. Let's take a look at a couple of examples. So here we have a sentence. It says, on Monday morning, I was not feeling good. Okay, so to feel good, how do we say that in Farsi? For example, I want to say, I'm feeling good, I'm feeling bad, or whatever. So this one, we follow this formula. حال کسی خوب بودن. حال, it means state of well-being. And then کسی here is the person, right? But the thing is that it needs to be replaced by the possessive adjective, by the possessive suffix of that person. Don't worry about it. We'll look at the example and then you'll understand. And here is past tense. So the formula for past tense. So literally we need to say something like Monday morning, my state good was not, because verb at the end. And then we need to say my state. And let's go over the vocab. Monday is دوشنبه, morning is صبح, and then good is خوب. So we are going to start with the sentence with Monday morning, دوشنبه صبح. دوشنبه صبح حالم خوب نبود. So as you can see here, Monday morning, so that's easy, and then حالم. So here, hal, what is this letter mim here? This is the possessive suffix for man. So halam, it means my state. And then good was not. And then if we don't want to negate it, we want to say I was feeling good. We just say halam khub bud, right? Let's take a look at another example here. We want to say on Saturday evening, my neighbor made dinner for me. Okay, so what is the verb? The verb is made, which comes from the infinitive to make. What's to make in Farsi? It's درست کردن. درست کردن. And then made is past tense. So here's the formula for past tense. And then let's go over the vocab. Saturday is شنبه. Evening is عصر. Neighbor همسایه. But remember, we need to add the possessive suffix to it. We need to say my neighbor. And then dinner is شام. And for me is برای من. برای is for and man is me. Alright, so literally we need to say something like Saturday evening, my neighbor for me, dinner made. So the the two things changes here, so we don't need on. And then also the verb comes at the end. شنبه عصر همسایه‌ام برای من شام درست کرد. One more time for pronunciation. شنبه عصر همسایه‌ام برای من شام درست کرد. So here you see, let me change my pen here. Okay, so you see an aleph before the possessive suffix for man because همسایه ends in silent he. So for pronunciation, we add an aleph before that. I think the rest is pretty clear. The only thing in the spoken language, a few things changes. In the spoken language, we don't say usually همسایه‌ام because we kind of speak fast. So we say something like همسایه‌ام. همسایه‌ام. And then برای من becomes برام. We have learned this in the lesson about prepositional pronouns. برام. And the rest doesn't change. So I'm going to read the sentence one more time. شنبه عصر همسایم برام شام درست کرد. Alright, so we covered this category, we covered this category, and now let's go over this one. Now let's go over these phrases that these phrases are referring to like repetitive actions. For example, at night, meaning like every night, or in the morning, meaning every mornings. So how do we say that? So it's very easy. Again, we don't need to have prepositions. We just add a ha to the time. So شب ها, صبح ها, آخر هفته ها, یک شنبه ها. Let's go over a couple of examples. So we want to say something like, on the weekends, my spouse and I go to new restaurants. All right, so what is the verb? The verb is go. So the infinitive is to go, which in Farsi is رفتن. And then the verb رفتن is a prepositional verb. به جایی رفتن. جایی means somewhere or a place, which in this example is new restaurants. And then به, the preposition به means to. So the same prepositions is used in Farsi. All right, and then what is this? This is the present stem because on the weekends, it's an adverb. It's a time adverb that shows repetitive action. So now we need simple present tense. Again, here is the formula. So literally we need to say something like weekends, me and my spouse. In Farsi, we don't say my spouse and I. We need to say me and my spouse. And then to restaurants, new, go. Because in Farsi, new restaurants, we first need to come up with the noun and then the adjective. We don't say new restaurants. We say restaurants, new. Right, so let's start the sentence. And we are going to start with the, what is it? With the time adverb, which is آخر هفته ها. Again, we just add a ha to weekend, آخر هفته ها. And it shows a repetitive action. And spouse is همسر, new is جدید, and restaurants or restaurant singular, رستوران. It's the same word, the pronunciation is a little bit different. رستوران. آخر هفته ها من و همسرم به رستوران های جدید می رویم. One more time. آخر هفته ها من و همسرم به رستوران های جدید می رویم. So this one I think is pretty clear, right? What is this ye here? This ye, because we need to connect the modifier, the adjective, to the noun restaurant. So we add a ye here. So اضافه is placed underneath the ye, because restaurant ha ends in a long vowel aleph. So we cannot add اضافه underneath aleph. So that's why a ye is added. But again, ezafe is implied. We don't write it down. I just only put it here so you guys see that there's like an ezafe there. So now let's go over the informal version of the sentence, how we say the sentence in the spoken language. So restaurant ha changes to restaurana. In the spoken language, really, we don't really pronounce the letter he. It's very subtle, very subtle. So restaurant ha becomes restaurana. And then miravim, there's a drastic change to the verb miravim. It becomes mirim. Mirim. So I'm going to read it one more time. And also remember, man va hamsaram. Va in the spoken language is not pronounced specifically. We say mano. Mano. It's like imagine putting a letter O here on man. So آخر هفته ها من و همسرم به رستورانای جدید میریم. Next example, I always work out in the morning. So to work out is ورزش کردن. Here is a present stem because this is simple present tense, so we need the present stem. And here is the formula again. Let's go over the vocab. Always is همیشه. And then in the morning, we just say صبح. So we don't need in the, like we don't need any preposition. And because it's referring to a repetitive habit, so we add a ha to صبح. So literally we need to say something like I always mornings work out. من همیشه صبحها ورزش میکنم. All right, so this one I think is pretty straightforward. Let me read it one more time. And man, it's optional, but I'm just going to read it. من همیشه صبحها ورزش میکنم. Also the subject, if you want to say the subject, it can also come either here or here. So the subject can either come before the time adverb or after that. We can also say همیشه صبحها من ورزش میکنم. Or it can also come in between. همیشه من صبحها ورزش میکنم. It's very like flexible. So we went over this part, these three categories. Now let's go over years and months, and then we're going to cover holidays and then meal times and other times. All right, so let's go over years and months. Now let's go over years and months. So year is سال, years سالها, و ماه month, ماهها months, سالها و ماهها. Let's start with this one. So let's say we want to say in April or in September. Then in the formal language, like in the formal written language, it's common to add the preposition dar. So you will see that if you like read the news and stuff. So dar. And then ماه آپریل. در ماه آپریل. So it's common also to use the word of month, either in the formal language or informal language. In both languages, it's common to use that. So در ماه آپریل. So literally, it's like saying in the month of April. So if you don't say ماه, is it incorrect? No, it's not incorrect. I'm just telling you what's common to say. Or like in September. So September is pronounced septembre. And then در ماه سپتامبر, in the month of September. But again, dar is used in the formal language. In the spoken language, we just say ماه سپتامبر or just septembre. Again, we don't have to say ماه. Let's go over to the years. So we want to say in 2002. So it's the same preposition. dar, but again used in formal language, and then sal. در سال 2022. 2022, it means 2022. در سال, and then we need to have اضافه. So literally saying in year of 2022. Or we want to say in 2000, same thing. در سال 2000, in year of 2000. All right, we have an easy example here, which is very short. So we want to say she was born in 2000. So what is the verb? What is the verb here? The verb is was born, which stems from the infinitive to be born, right? So what is to be born in Farsi? There's two verbs for that. The first one, به دنیا آمدن, which can also be written like this. We drop the he and we attach be to the letter dal. So به دنیا آمدن. What is the literal meaning of that? It means toward, to come. Dunya means like the word. So toward, to come. There's another one that we have. We also use متولد شدن. متولد شدن. So I think this one sounds easier. So let's go with this one and we're going to use this version. به دنیا آمدن. Back to this example. So now we want to say in 2000. So we said in the previous slides, that's the way to say it is usually she in the year of 2000 was born. We usually use the word year too. All right. So 2000 is 2000. Do, it means two. Hazar means 1000. So 2000. او در سال 2000 به دنیا آمد. So this sentence, again, dar is used usually in the formal written language. This sentence has also a version in the formal spoken language. So آمد in the spoken language is اومد. And then we don't need to say dar. So the sentence is going to be او سال 2000 به دنیا اومد. We have another easy example here. So we want to say my birthday is in September. So the verb is, let me change my pen. So is, which stems from the infinitive to be, which in Farsi again is budan. But this is present tense. So we need the present stem of the verb budan. Now let's go over the vocab. Birthday is tavallud. 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 And then we the month of September is September, or it also equals to the Persian month of Mehr. So literally we need to say my birthday in the month of September is, so the verb at the end. So let's start with my birthday. تولدم در ماه سپتامبر هست. So my birthday, and then dar again, we said it's used in the formal written language. In the spoken language, we don't need to say that. And then in the spoken language, september hast becomes, we get rid of hast, and then it becomes a silent he here, so septembre, right? So this sentence in the spoken language is تولدم ماه سپتامبر. Now we are going to go over holidays and other times. So we are going to start with the table on the left. Now let's go over mealtimes and other times. Usually in English, the preposition at is used. For example, at lunch, at dinner time, or at bedtime, or at sunrise. But in Farsi, either the preposition موقع is used. This one is used in the informal language, or the preposition هنگام, and this one is mostly used in the formal language. The meaning of these two prepositions is when or during. For example, if we want to say at sunrise, then we don't use at, because at would be dar, right? But we don't say dar طلوع آفتاب. We need to say موقع طلوع آفتاب. It's like literally saying during sunrise. Or like at sunset, موقع غروب آفتاب. And آفتاب means sun. And غروب is like when the sun is setting, and طلوع is like when the sun is rising. Or let's go on the left side. For example, at lunch, we say موقع نهار or هنگام نهار. All this موقع here can be replaced with هنگام. Or at dinner time, موقع شام. All right, let's take a look at a couple of examples. Let's take a look at an example here. So we want to say at sunset, I look at the sky. So the verb is to look, which in Farsi is نگاه کردن. نگاه کردن. And then in English, to look at something. In Farsi, we don't look at something, we look to something. به چیزی نگاه کردن. So the preposition used in Farsi is به. All right, and now the tense is, what is the tense? Is simple present tense. So here's the formula. So me plus present stem, and here is the present stem con. Now let's go over the rest of the vocab. So sunset is غروب آفتاب. So غروب کردن, it means to set, and then آفتاب is sun. So غروب آفتاب, sunset. And then sky is آسمان, but in the spoken language it's pronounced آسمون. So literally we need to say something like during sunset, I to the sky look. Because again, we don't say at sunset. The preposition at in Farsi is like dar, but we can't say dar غروب آفتاب. We need to say something like during sunset. هنگام غروب آفتاب به آسمان نگاه می کنم. Sorry, my pen is stuck here. Okay. So هنگام اضافه غروب, another اضافه آفتاب به آسمان نگاه می کنم. So one اضافه, two اضافه. So it seems like the sentence is pretty clear. Again, we can also say موقع. موقع is more used in the spoken language, and هنگامه is more used in the written language, formal written language. And then we said in the spoken language, آسمان is pronounced آسمون. So this sentence in the spoken language is pronounced موقع غروب آفتاب به آسمون نگاه می کنم. Next example. At dinner time, my family talk to each other. The verb is talk. So the infinitive is to talk, which in Farsi is حرف زدن. You might have heard of صحبت کردن too. That also works. In English, you talk to someone, but in Farsi, we don't talk to someone. We talk with someone. با کسی حرف زدن. And then کسی here would be each other. And then talk here is simple present tense. So here's the present stem to form simple present tense. So literally we need to say something like during dinner, my family with each other talk. Because at becomes during, and then the verb at the end. So dinner is sham, family is خانواده. In the spoken language, the pronunciation kind of becomes خونواده. And then each other is همدیگر. همدیگر. But in the spoken language, we either pronounce it as همدیگه or we just say ham. Like we drop the دیگه part and we just say ham. Alright, so we are going to start the sentence. هنگام شام خانواده ام با هم دیگر حرف میزنند. One more time. هنگام شام خانواده ام با همدیگر حرف میزنند. So this alif here before the possessive suffix, it's because خانواده ends in silent he. So for the pronunciation, it's we add an alif before adding the possessive suffix. All right, now the informal of the sentence. So hengam becomes موقع, and then the pronunciation of خانواده‌ام, sorry, let me change my pen. خانواده‌ام becomes خونوادم. خونوادم. And then we said با هم دیگر becomes either با هم, just هم دیگر becomes either هم or هم دیگه. So here با هم, let's say, we don't even need to say دیگه. And then میزنند becomes میزنن. We drop the dal from the ending, so میزنن. So I'm going to read the sentence one more time in the spoken language, and also I'm going to read it faster. So it's going to go as موقع شام خانواده‌ام با هم حرف میزنن. Now we are going to go over holidays and other times, and we are going to take a look at. Now let's go over the last one, which would be like holidays, like ta'atilat. For example, we want to say on Christmas Day or on New Year's Eve or on my birthday, even though birthday is not technically a holiday, but it is a celebration. All right, so in English, the preposition on is used. In Farsi, again, in the formal language, dar is used. And then we also add like a ruz or shab to it to make it a little bit more specific, which in English also you say on, is common also to say on Christmas Day, right? So, dar ruz Christmas. On New Year's Eve, dar shab sal no. On my birthday, در روز تولدم. But again, these در روز or shab, they're in a bracket because again, that's how they say it usually in the formal language. Or for example, you want to give a formal presentation to your teacher, then it's good also to add the preposition در with روز or shab to it. Other than that, if you just want to learn Farsi to speak the spoken language for that purpose, you don't need to necessarily use it. You can just go with like تولدم or سال نو or Christmas. Let's see an example here. We want to say on Christmas Day we wake up early. So the verb wake up, to wake up, is بیدار شدن. And then the tense is present tense, so you need the present stem to form present tense. So literally, we need to say something like on the day of Christmas, we early wake up. So Christmas is just Christmas, and then early is زود. در روز کریسمس ما زود بیدار میشویم. One more time. در روز کریسمس ما زود بیدار میشویم. So that's a little bit more formal. So if I want to say this sentence informally, I don't need to say در روزه. I don't need to say ما. And then میشویم becomes میشیم. There's like a drastic change to میشویم, becomes میشیم. So I'm going to read the sentence one more time. And a little bit faster and a little bit more colloquial. So Christmas زود بیدار میشیم. And last example for this lesson, and sorry guys if the lesson got a little bit too long, I like to add different examples so you guys can get to practice more. But if you think that I'm just adding a lot of examples, just let me know. In my next lessons I'll just put less examples. All right, so let's see what we have here. The sentence says, every year on my birthday, I get many gifts. So what is the verb? Is to get, right? What is to get in Farsi is گرفتن. گرفتن. And then the tense is simple present. So we need the present stem, گیر. Now let's go over the vocab. Every year is هر سال. We learned this in the previous lesson. and then birthday is tavallud, and then many is خیلی, and gift is either هدیه or هدیه. There's two pronunciation for it. Or in the spoken language, we just say cadeau, which is actually French that we use in Farsi. All right, so literally we need to say something like every year on the day of my birthday, I many gift get. هر سال من در روز تولدم خیلی هدیه میگیرم. One more time. هر سال من در روز تولدم خیلی هدیه میگیرم. All right, there's a few points here that you need to know. So what is this? Why is this noun singular and not plural? Because in the English you say gift, but why is it singular? So the reason is because we have خیلی before that, and خیلی is already indicating plural, so the noun stays singular. And also we said that روزه, it's used in the formal language. If I wanted to say this sentence colloquially, I don't need to say that روزه. All right, so this sentence in the spoken language is going to be, and also هدیه changes to کادو. هر سال تولدم خیلی کادو میگیرم. So here is a summary of prepositions of time, and you can just take a screenshot of it, and from now on when you want to talk about your days or you want to talk about hours or routines and stuff, and these prepositions of time will be very helpful. We reached the end of this lesson. I hope you guys found this lesson helpful. If you did, please don't forget to like this video and to subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys in another video.